Sorry. Can I ask those in the room at the back to please join us in the auditorium? As soon as James sits, I'll start. You need to give. Okay, we'll begin the meeting. Sorry. Good evening. I'd like to welcome the Mayor, all members and our guests at Old Town Hall, Stratford, for this evening's meeting of the Council. I'd like to welcome members of the public and press who are physically attending or watching on YouTube. In accordance with Rule 2.11 of the Council Procedure Rules, in the absence of our Chair, Councillor Rahima Rahman, and her Deputy Councillor Salim Patel, I invite nominations for a Chair for this meeting.
Thank you. I should like to nominate Councillor Winston Vaughan to chair this meeting.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations?
I would like to nominate Councillor Nate Higgins to chair this meeting.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations? No. So we have two nominations. I will now ask the Council to vote. Those in favour of Councillor Winston Vaughan as Chair of Council for this meeting? All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against? Please raise your hand. Any member abstaining this evening? I will still move to the second vote. I will now ask the Council to vote. Those in favour of Councillor Nate Higgins as Chair of Council for this meeting? All those in favour, thank you. All those against, please raise your hands. Anyone abstaining this evening? So I would like to announce that Councillor Vaughan has been appointed as Chair for the meeting. Thank you all. Can I call for a short adjournment of just 10 minutes, please, to enable the elected Chair to put on the chain and receive advice in relation to an urgent motion? So we will return in 10 minutes.
Good evening. I too wish to welcome everyone to this evening's meeting of the Council. The meeting is being filmed for broadcast on YouTube. The cameras are mainly focused on councillors and others making contributions. With regards to the meeting etiquette, unfortunately, at previous council meetings, we have had interruptions from the public in attendance. I would like to take this opportunity to remind the public that to enable the council to conduct its business, if there are any interruptions at today's meeting, I will ask the individual or individuals to stop and give a warning. If this continues, I will give a second and final warning. Should the disruption continue, I will ask security to remove the person or group from the council chamber and will adjourn the meeting. Members of council, please can I ask that you indicate when you wish to speak by raising your hand. If you are invited to speak, please use the microphone or the lectern in the middle of the floor and to stand close to it when talking. Please do not move the microphone when speaking and do not approach the dais. Please can I ask members and officers to introduce themselves when speaking. I would like to ask that everyone turns their mobile phones to silent mode. We are not expecting a fire drill this evening, so if the alarm sounds, please remain calm and follow the instructions of the Town Hall staff.
Point of order.
Councillor Islam, do you want to address us?
Thank you, Chair. It's obviously Councillor Islam here. I'd like to move Rule 16, Section 1 of Subsection 10, to vary the order of business by moving item 20, motion 5, right at the beginning of business, if that could be the first item on the Council agenda.
Thank you. We take this under item 9, if you're okay with that. Okay?
Okay, so we don't need any secondas.
Say again, sorry?
We don't need to have a seconder on this, on the rule.
Yeah. 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 Council, is that agreed? Thank you. Anyone against? Thank you very much indeed.
Chair, sorry, I'm confused. The Chief Whip just moved to move it to the first, to move a specific motion to the first item of business in this meeting, which we've done before and I would support, but then you said something different to what the Chief Whip just said, but then we agreed something, and I don't know what we've agreed. I agree with the Chief Whip that it should be the first item of business, and that's what he's just proposed, so is that what we're doing?
Chair, we are taking it as one of the first items, but I think we need to do with the announcements, take the minutes and so forth first, so that's why item 9, which will probably be about 5 minutes, so we get to that point.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. I don't know if your microphone was on.
So we're going to take it as one of the first items, but we do normally deal with the minutes and the declaration of interest and any announcements. So we will take it after item 9, which should be in about 5-10 minutes.
So that's covered.
Okay. Let's move on.
Yeah. I'm now moving to item number 2, apologies of absence. I have received apologies for absence from the Chair, Councillor Rohima Rahman, Deputy Chair of Council Salim Patel, Councillors Rohit Dasgupta, Joshua Garfield, Charlene McLean, and Terry Paul. Are there any other apologies of absence from councillors to be recorded? Yes?
Right.
Sorry?
After you, Jeff.
Yes, any more?
Yes, I've got,
Just 1 minute, please. Carry on.
I've got apologies from councillors Tony Wilson, Mariam Darwood, Carleen Lee Parkway, Rachel Tripp, Susan Masters, Liz Booker, John Morris. Thank you.
Councillor Shah, do you want to come in? Councillor Shah? Sorry, I didn't hear you. Thank you. Any more apologies? Thank you very much indeed. I am now moving to item number 3, minutes of the extraordinary and last meeting, both held on the 16th of October 2023, pages 5 to 22 on your agenda. Firstly, I move as a correct record the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of the Council held on the 16th of October 2023. Do I have a seconder, please?
Chair, I'd like to make a quick point of order. There's something in the minutes which I think needs correcting. In item 10, on the urgent motion, in the penultimate paragraph, it reads, following Councillor Merz's right to reply, the Chair called for a vote on the amendment which was passed, becoming the substantive motion. Can I please suggest we amend that to read, following Councillor Merz's right to reply, the Chair called for a vote on the amendment which was passed unanimously. Everybody in the chamber voted for the amendment, and I think it's important that the minutes reflect that.
Okay. Do you agree, Council? Any abstentions? Thank you. I now move as a correct record the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the Council held on the 16th of October 2023. Councillor? Oh, all right. I can confirm as acting chair of council that officers have received corrections to the minutes from the Green Party members, for which I have agreed that the amendment be recorded accordingly. The corrections are item 9, appointments. Page 12, the Labour Party Chief Whip, Councillor Anam Islam, advised that Councillor Lakmini Shah had replaced Councillor Elizabeth Booker as chair of the Education, Children, Young People and Lifelong Learning Scrutiny Commission. To be amended to, the Labour Chief Whip, Councillor Animal Islam, nominated Councillor Lakmini Shah to replace Councillor Elizabeth Booker as chair of the Education, Children, Young People and Lifelong Learning Scrutiny Commission. There followed a vote. Item 10, urgent motion, to include the Green Party's amendment. Item 11, motions on fireworks safety, and amended to add the Green Party and the independent members, Councillor Mahmood Mirza, vote in favour of the motion. With these amendments, I move as a correct record the minutes of the last meeting, ordinary council meeting held on the 16th of May, 2023. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Penton. All those in favour, please show your hands. Thank you very much. All those against, please raise your hands. Thank you. Any abstentions? Minutes are agreed. Thank you. I am now moving to item number 4, declarations of interest. You will find those on pages 5 to 22 of your agenda. Are there any members wishing to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests or any other interest they may have in any matter which is to be considered at this meeting? I take it there's no one. Right, I'm now moving to item 5, Newham Partners Update. I am pleased to welcome Rob Whiteman, CEO of the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy, known as CIPFA, the UK-based international accountancy membership and standard sending body. Mr. Whiteman is joining us remotely. Good evening, Mr. Whiteman.
Good evening.
Thank you very much. You have up to 10 minutes, after which members will have up to 10 minutes to ask any questions they may have. You may continue.
Thanks very much, Chair. Very nice to be able to address you. I'm sorry to speak with you in person. It sounds like a first world problem, but I'm with my plane home in Kansas. Is there an echo? Can you hear me?
Yeah, the sound is not great.
Very good. I think we have a slight problem. We have a slight problem, Mr. Whiteman, with the sound. I hope we can adjust it from here.
How's that? Is that any better?
I think that's a bit better, yes. Thank you.
I'll try not to speak too loud, otherwise my voice will be very annoying for you. It's a pleasure for me to address you. I am a Newham resident, a lifelong Newham resident, so I'm going to talk about local authority finance, but I've lived in the borough all my life. I went to school in the borough, and indeed, my mum passed away recently, having been attendant of the council for 62 years. And the council was always a marvellous landlord to her. So I'm very grateful for the help that you gave me and my family in life. I'm Chief Executive of CIPFA. I used to be Chief Executive of another London borough, and I also spent time as Chief Executive of the UK Border Agency. And I was also ran the IDA, the Improved Development Agency, the local government improvement body. So where's local government finance at the moment? If all the council tax and all the business rates that's collected up and down the country were available to council to spend on lower tier activity, those things that we think of the district council might do, which are a unitary council, then actually there's more than enough money to fund local government. But where we are, of course, is that for principal authorities, unitary authorities such as yourself, council tax and business rates is not adequate to pay for all services because of the significant pressures of children's and adult services, which often account for 70% of a council's expenditure. Now, the other side of an election, a future government will need to look at what happens to local government finance. Are there other sources of finance? Are all business rates retained? How will distribution work across local government? But in the meantime, My advice to you is it's unlikely that anything much will change in the next year or two. If there is a change of government, it will always take a new government at least a year to get their feet under the table and work out what they would want to do and how they would change local authority finance. And so we are in a difficult position for the sector where the majority of councils are dealing with significant pressures. On the other hand, being objective, whilst there are considerable pressures and costs have gone up and demand has gone up, it is also the case that productivity has been lost, and that's probably because of a combination of market management is difficult in order to manage the cost of placements, and workforce shortages lead to the need for agency staff and interim arrangements. So actually, local government, the NHS and central government services find that they don't have enough money to meet their cost and demand pressures, but they also find that they are less efficient than they were 3 to 4 years ago, and that the cost of producing activity has gone up and that we have lost some productivity. That doesn't help, of course, to bridge very real budget pressures and very real cost demands. But actually, my advice to you, therefore, is you have to work on both. And of course, lobby for how a system will benefit your cost and demand pressures, but also work on the efficiency that you have. And in order to do that, benchmark costs against others and have strategies to deal with the principal pressures that you face, such as children's services, adult services, and the cost of temporary accommodation. There are pressures everywhere, but I think you, for example, particularly have pressures around temporary accommodation, as do a number of London local authorities. From my perspective at SIPFA, and I'll just say this honestly and bluntly, I see two extremes in local government. Most people are in the middle. I see some councils that are very well managed and are managing to deal with their pressures. They have a medium-term plan, they have reserves, they make savings proposals and they deliver them. And at the other end of the spectrum, obviously there are some less well managed councils that tend to live from hand to mouth, don't have adequate reserves, and run the risk of their budget running away with them. Your Director of Finance has a responsibility under law in section 114 to cease expenditure, to freeze expenditure if ever the council's budget isn't balanced. This is a rare thing to happen, and it's an uneasy position for the Director of Finance because it's not a council decision, it's a decision of the Director of Finance as a regulated professional, as a qualified accountant. And you'll know, of course, that while this is a rare event, actually we have had a spate of Section 114 notices in the last few years. Northamptonshire, Slough, Croydon, Nottingham, Birmingham, Thurrock and Woking. Now, I could speak about all of them and the circumstances that gave rise to 114s, but I think it's reasonable to say that these councils have gone bust because they were badly managed. They haven't gone bust because of austerity. We are now in the position where I think within the next year or two, some well-managed councils may find themselves in that position. But on the whole, and I say this independently and objectively, at the moment, the councils most likely to go bust and not balance their budgets are those that are not as well managed as others. And what I see working up and down the country is councils that deal with the problems of their budget pressures, have strong corporate working, strong relationships between members and officers in order to deliver the efficiencies and savings that are needed, the ability to invest properly and realise returns on the investments that they make. And in less well-managed councils, we see game playing, savings being put up that nobody thinks can be achieved, and nobody really wants to balance the books. They all think it's the directors of finance responsibility, or that they can't possibly manage on less money. And it's less well managed councils that lack that strong corporate management that are likely to go to the wall first. I'll just say a couple of comments and then I'll finish, Chair. I'm conscious that I'm up against the clock. SIPF's been, very pleased to work with Newham recently, and I'm aware that you're an ambitious authority and you want to sort your budget out and you want to deliver the services that the borough residents need. I hope that the information that we've gathered for you, extensive benchmark information, is of use. We've helped to identify financial and service demand pressures. We've conducted interviews with a number of members and officers, and obviously spoken extensively to the mayor and the chief executive and the leadership teams. Our advice to you is to encourage you to be more ambitious on efficiency savings compared to some other councils that we see. There is scope for you to make efficiency savings and to balance the books that presently aren't being taken to what we see elsewhere. And I know that's an easy thing to say. Nobody comes into local government because they want to make savings. But actually, you have got scope. Looking at the cost of your services, you have got scope to make savings in a way which is safe. And we would give you every encouragement and help to be able to do so. I hope I haven't gone over my 10 minutes, Chair. That was a bit of a rattle through it all. And I'm happy to receive any comments or questions.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Whiteman. Well, based on time, I think we can probably take 3 questions. Councillor Nate Higgins.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay.
I can, yes.
I don't know whether you can see me, but thank you very much for that presentation. You listed some qualities of councils that are in a stronger position to weather the financial storm that we're facing right now. In your opinion, does Newham have those qualities? Thank you.
Well, it's very difficult for me to answer that, and I'm not trying to pass the buck. I don't know the council well enough. Looking at the numbers, if I look at benchmark information, then there is scope for you to make improvements. What we see on the ground so far is an absolute willingness to be able to make some difficult decisions and to be in a group of authorities that are well run. But in a way, Councillor, it's a good question to ask me in 6 months' time to see whether or not the potential that you have has been delivered through the strong people that we see. In my experience, good teams and well-run councils can actually get it wrong at the point of when they actually physically have to deliver those savings and when they have to really seriously challenge all of their costs. So I'm not trying to buck the question. I see nothing wrong, but at this early stage, I wouldn't wish to comment on whether I see enough that's going right. I think the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, and that you actually now deliver on some of those ambitions and efficiencies that I believe you have the ability to make.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Ali.
Well, thank you very much indeed for your time and a detailed presentation here based on limited time. My question really is, Newham is a forward-looking authority, very ambitious, as you've said already, and we've done a lot of work in terms of efficiencies and increasing productivity and savings, etc., on the basis of 13 years austerity. Based on your experience elsewhere, what are 3 or 4 things which you think other authorities are undertaking, which we could also look to see how best we can meet the difficult situation we are in, bearing in mind that 2/3 of our funding comes from central government, and the issue that you raised about the distribution of the business rates, etc., is quite important as well. And I agree entirely that we don't expect much to come forward in future, bearing in mind the national financial position. But what would be your views in terms of local authority finance generally, in terms of bridging the gaps? Because, Newham is, yes, we have an overspend at the moment. We are managing very well. We did it last year. We'll do it again this year. But we are amongst the middle-lower ranking in London. But clearly there are challenges we're having to face. So what would be 3 or 4 challenges that we can work with to resolve? Thank you.
So short-term things and long-term things. Authorities that believe they haven't got enough money and that they're adversely treated, in my experience, that tends to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you tell an organisation it hasn't got enough money, the one thing I'll promise you is that it will believe you. You have to believe that you can balance the budget and then take short and medium term actions to do that. In the short term, have grip. Savings have to be delivered. You have a track record of delivering all your savings before the year starts in order that you get a full year effect of them, or do sometimes savings run late or not get delivered. For the more medium term, organisations that do well financially or relatively better have the capabilities of market making. Of course, placements are expensive for children's and adults, as well as for homelessness. Actually, you gain greater productivity by having good market making skills and not taking what the market gives to you. And very often that may mean working in collaboration with others on a bigger footprint. And thirdly, I can't stress this enough, a strong relationship between members and officers, councillor, where officers don't play politics and put things up that they don't really want to be saved. Members don't only think about their ward interests are very important, or their own interest or committee or cabinet interests, but that actually all officers and all members think about the corporate interests of the council and what needs to be funded and where efficiencies need to be made. And people don't act in silos around their own particular department if they're an officer, or their own particular interest if they are a member. And really good authorities are evidence-led. So I would say the type of benchmarking information that we've provided to you, think very rigorously, corporately, together about what you want the shape of your budget to look like, and then be very rigorous and robust in making sure that if you're going to have a plan to do that, you deliver it in advance, on time, before the financial year starts.
And the last question is from Councillor Lewis.
Rob, thank you so much for your talk, which was really informative and really, really interesting. I guess my question is this: how do we prevent irresponsible populist politicians lying to their residents about policies that they don't cost and which they can't afford? How do we stop local demagogues from promising the world without having the means to achieve their policies?
Well, that's a very interesting question. When I was Chief Executive a long time ago now, we, of course, had the BNP. For the first time in British political history, the BNP formed the official opposition on the council because they won so many seats. And I think my advice, councillor, is that members and relationship and community development play an absolutely vital role in getting the truth across. It's a bit of a complicated thing to say, but I likened Barking and Dagenham at the time to having a glass dome over it, and the council could send messages down like, we've just won an award and we've got this thing for being most improved council and we're doing these fabo things. But these messages from people in suits like me would just bounce off the glass dome. The glass dome has to be broken from within by telling the truth, by giving evidence, by being persistent, And there's no easy way around this. One of the reasons that I've always loved working in local government is that I have the highest respect for members as community leaders. And actually, you can change the opinion on the ground in a way that an officer with a clever report or clever argument doesn't, because you give leadership to your communities and you put the hard yards in of doing that. So a very personal answer to you. I hope that you beat populism and mistruth by the hard work of good old-fashioned community development, particularly through elected members.
Can I thank you, Mr. Whiteman, for your time with us this evening. We know that you're extremely busy, and we appreciate you giving your time to speak to us this evening. Forgive me, I think there's one member has his hand raised. Would you like to take that question? Mr. Whiteman. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Chair. My question is, can you hear me?
Could you tell us?
Hello.
Okay, yes. My question is, Newham doesn't have a medium-term financial plan. Reserve or dwindling saving are not often achieved. What can backbencher councillor do to avert a disaster if the council leadership won't listen? Thank you.
So,
That's some
good governance matters, and people have different roles, and nobody has the right answer on their own. But by constructive dialogue between parties, I don't mean political parties, then actually through constructive dialogue, through good governance to resolve issues, you get to the right result. Officers are not always right. The cabinet isn't always right. Backbench members are not always right. But if you treat people with respect and treat arguments with respect and want to get to the right outcome of what's best for the resident, then actually good governance adds value to making savings on time and making sure that the things that you want to do are deliverable. If people just throw spears at each other, or throw fruit at each other, actually governance can be a hindrance to getting to the right result, because it takes on its own form of argument and it's very time consuming. So good governance is a place where disagreements are respectively and constructively resolved through evidence, and that people respect that they might not get their own way, but they think there's been a good airing of the facts. And in my experience, councillor, it is those councils that don't all agree with each other, but they have healthy respect for the other players within their system. Officers and members have respect for each other. The cabinet and backbenchers have respect for each other, even if they disagree with each other about policy and politics. In my experience, if you can ensure good governance, then actually you're a long way upon the road of success to having a good medium-term financial strategy, because you stress test things and you think about them, and they're tested in advance through rigorous argument about whether or not they will work. And I do genuinely believe that there is a responsibility on everybody in public life to not only be right, but to make sure that other people who may be right have their voice, and that we compromise, and that we end up with the right decision for the public, who ultimately matter most of all. So I would urge everybody to treat governance with respect and want to get to a good compromised outcome.
That question came from Councillor Mirza. So once again, Mr. Whiteman, thank you very, very much for being with us this evening, and it was well received. On behalf of the borough, thank you so much indeed.
Well, thank you very much, and Mr. President.
I'm now moving to item...
Good work. Thank you very much.
I'm now moving to item number 6, announcements by the chair. And can I start with I, along with Council, send our congratulations and best wishes to our Chair, Councillor Rohima Rahman, and Councillor Musbah on the birth of their son last month. As some of you may know, our Deputy Chair, Councillor Salim Patel, is recovering from major surgery. We send him our best wishes and hopes of a speedy recovery. Councillor, can I welcome newly elected Councillor Sophia Nadvi to her first council meeting. Is she here? Congratulations to you. I'm now moving to item 7, announcements by the Mayor, Roxana Fiaz. Mayor. I invite Mayor Roxana Fiaz to address the Council. To make any announcements, you have up to 10 minutes to do so. Okay.
Thank you very much, Chair. Colleagues, it is a monumental occasion for a whole number of reasons, not just the Climate Action Just Transition Plan, which we'll come to in more detail later on this evening, but it's monumental because there's an individual in this room that's worked here at Newham Council with dedication, with purpose, in the spirit of public service, with integrity, with ethics. And that individual is Colin Ansell, and he's sitting just over there. Do you want to wave? The reason why I wanted to draw everyone's attention to Colin, who is with us this evening, is that this is going to be his last full council meeting that he'll be attending, because next year he's going to be starting his new role as the Chief Executive of Southend City Council, and I just wanted to spend... And I wanted for us to just take a moment to do precisely what you all just did without prompting. So thank you very much. But I think that's a testament to the regard to which he is held, and to the decency that he encompasses, given his dedication, as I have said, to the people of Newham for the best part of the last 25 years. So Colin, thank you, and we all wish you very well. You'll always have a special heart here in Newham, and we will miss you. Thank you. So, colleagues, good evening. Tonight, we're going to be speaking about some of the most pressing issues facing Newham, London, and the country. But if I can begin by celebrating some of the incredible people that make Newham the borough I am so proud to represent, a borough that I have grown up in, and so proud to call my lifelong home. We celebrated the second year of our Newham Civic Awards last Tuesday, an event where our community can nominate and honour those who contributed to make Newham the amazing place it is. The evening event demonstrated some of the incredible strength, talent and commitment we have here in our people, here in our wonderful borough. Around 2 weeks ago, we saw another demonstration of that talent in Newham at the launch of our bid to become the London Borough of Culture 2025, where we brought together incredible food stalls from local organisations and some impressive performances from all our different communities. The event was yet another demonstration that Newham is the beating heart of London culture, full of talented people, people that are willing to give all that they can to help each other, to support each other, to shine a spotlight on how great this borough is through their creativity, their talent, their interest and their commitment to helping each other. I do need to say it was disappointing that a member here chose to interrupt a flute recital from one of our children who was performing at the bid event that we had organised in Queen's Market. That young person was 14 years old. He needs to be enabled. He needs to be applauded, not shouted. I just want to ask you all to reflect on those words, because we've also promised that Newham is going to become the best place in the world for our children, young people to grow up. No one is saying it's perfect, yet no one can deny the extremes of poverty that some of our children and young people are exposed to. No one can be blind to the fact that many of our young people in this borough, where so many of our families are living in temporary accommodation or waiting for a proper family home, aren't impacted by that reality. On Saturday, I held my Mayor's Councillor surgery. I hold 2 every month, and last Saturday I held it at Canning Town Hall, Canning Town Library. Of the cases that I was dealing with, 2 related to housing. Of those 2, accompanying their mother were 2 young people sitting with their parents, comforting them because they were upset, because they live in overcrowded homes, and waiting to be rehoused in bigger, larger accommodation, which we are battling and fighting and campaigning to achieve. We are spending £2 billion, yes, through borrowing and a combination of grants to build more homes, to buy more homes, family-sized homes. One young person was 14, the same age as that young kid, playing his flute, an amazing talent in Queen's Market that night, but interrupted by adults. Those that are behind that should be embarrassed. All of us as public servants, need to demonstrate dignity and respect in this borough for each other, but especially for our children. We have a commitment to become a child-friendly borough. And that young person, that 14-year-old playing the flute, should be elevated, should be supported, should be encouraged, not diminished because adults feel that they have always a God-given right and entitlement to occupy space. No, not on those occasions. Protest, absolutely, is a cornerstone of our democracy. And all of us here, yes, rightly, should be committed to supporting freedom of speech, but doing so to the detriment of our young people is not on, it's not okay, so stop it. Our residents rightly expect better than this, and this is not the way in which politics here in Newham is about. Politics should be about our people, should be about pursuing truth and justice, and it absolutely needs to be underpinned with a moral compass and ethics, because it is our people that we are here to represent, and it is our privilege to represent them. And it is our people why I came into politics in this borough. We must not lose sight of that. The week before last, we were invited by the Local Government Association to come in and provide challenge to Newham Council as an organisation. We've heard from the Chief Executive of SIPFA about the importance of due diligence, good financial management, the involvement of all members, in ensuring that we have a robust financial underpinning. The Local Government Association came in and provided advice and assessed so that they can produce a report about how we can improve our services to our people. Because as a council, we are open to scrutiny, because constructive work with partners can get us much, much further than political point scoring. With the challenging times that we're in and that lie ahead, a perfect storm of crises battering the country, it is more important now, more than ever, that we think first of our people, but always. We have sustained high inflation with a housing market that is out of control and food prices that continue to climb. And this is placing a huge strain on the services and finances of all of local government across the country. My administration and I are scrutinising spending and campaigning for fair settlement for Newham, one part of which Councillor Wilson will update you on later. And the reason why we are campaigning, because central government has not risen to the challenge. Instead, it seems intent on sowing tensions and divisions, and in the last few months has turned its back on our global net zero commitments, as well as turned its back on the people of this country. Just 2 years after it held the COP presidency. As many of you know, COP28 has been taking place, and it's going to be closing tomorrow, where there were pollution pods outside for people across the world to step into a dome and breathe in the polluted air that the people of London breathe, and that the people of Newham breathe. This is unacceptable. We know that we have 115 people die prematurely because of the fumes the vehicles produce. We also have some 4,000 children being taken to hospital each year here in Newham because of severe respiratory conditions. And that is why this evening we are bringing to this full council our Climate Action Just Transition Plan, which will address the unequal impacts of climate change and how it is the way in which we will build a fairer Newham with people and the planet at its heart. It's the first of its kind, and last week has also seen recycling connections move to weekly, and Councillor James Asser will be talking more about that. And it is for the people of Newham that we are prioritising building to ensure that we have good quality homes fit for a net zero future, but also that those homes are affordable for our residents. We've calculated that we need some £50,000 per social home that we currently have in our stock, and that's why I wrote a letter to the Secretary of State for Net Zero asking that councils like Newham require millions of pounds to retrofit, and in the Newham context we'll be looking at £800 million. That's a campaign that members should be behind.
Have 1 minute, Mayor, please.
And it's also for the people of Newham that my administration and I have campaigned so hard against the MSG sphere coming to Stratford, which would have such detrimental impact on our community. Whilst the Mayor of London agreed with our position, last week Michael Gove called in the planning application to make his own determination, and I have made it public. There's also a response to a member's question, but let's be clear. We know that the MSG sphere proposition isn't the right fit for Newham, for Stratford. We know that we need to put forward alternatives, and that's why, as we come to the debates around motions, I urge all members in this chamber to vote for the Labour amendment, because in that amendment you will see a ask for the site that is the MSG sphere to be transformed to a housing and employment inclusion zone, which we've been campaigning and working on with Telco Citizens and some of the country's leading housing justice experts. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you very much, Mayor. I am now moving to item number 8, announcements by the Chief Executive, Abby Bargo.
Thank you, Chair.
I invite Abby Bargo to address the Council to make any announcements. Thank you.
Chair. I have two brief announcements. So the first announcement is to re-announce the election results before Council. So following the resignation of a council in Plaistow North Ward, a by-election was held on Thursday the 23rd of November 2023. The election was held under the new requirements of voter ID, and the elections were successfully delivered with an overall turnout of 25%. I hereby announce that Sophia Nakvi was duly elected for Plaistow North Ward. I would like to extend a special welcome to our newly elected Councillor Sophia Nakvi. The second announcement is just to thank, as the Mayor has stated, just to thank the Local Government Association for attending to us and visiting us 2 weeks ago for our peer review. We look forward to taking forward the recommendations which we will receive from them in the new year. And both officers, all the officers and I are looking forward to working with all members to move forward on those recommendations when we receive them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. I am now moving to item number 7, updates from Cabinet members. Any member of the Cabinet, Deputy Cabinet member or Commissioner who wishes to update Council will be allowed to speak. There shall be no debate or questions allowed. Does any member of the Cabinet, Deputy Cabinet member or Commissioner wish to speak? You'll be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes. And Councillor Assa, I see you have your hand raised. And after that, Councillor Wilson also wanted to speak. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to give Council a quick update on recycling, which I know is of great interest both to Council and residents. People will be aware we've been working very hard over the last few years to increase our rate, which was extremely low and well below 20%. And during that time, we've increased it to under that 20% to almost 25%, which is a significant increase, partly by changing the amount we collect and changing the stuff that goes in, including pots, tubs and trays, glass and foil, through a negotiation with the East London Waste Authority. People will be reassured that as we approach the end of the contract in 2027, the procurement process is now in place. There is a cross-working party across boroughs, and recycling is at the centre of the changes we'll be looking to make after 2027. But to get us into a good position for that, we have made a very recent change, which has been a long-standing commitment and manifesto commitment, and as of last week, the borough is now receiving weekly recycling collections no matter where you live across the borough. See, it's nice to have some good news before Christmas, isn't it? So we hope that will massively increase further the recycling rates. It will obviously doubles the opportunities people have to recycle. The staff have worked incredibly hard to get that in place. I think people are aware there were difficulties because of the lorry driver shortage. That's all been put in place. A lot of work is going in from the staff to communicate that out to residents. So we hope they'll find it much more useful to be able to recycle more and do it this side of Christmas as well. So and we hope to see the rates continue to drive up as they have been year on year. So good news for Christmas, good news for residents, and good news for our carbon footprint.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm following on from what the Mayor has already indicated that I will be speaking about in terms of a campaigning council. We've heard tonight rightly that we don't use resources as an excuse for inactivity, but one thing that this council has been very clear on, and we have in our majority party manifesto to the electorate, is a campaign for inner London funding. It is rightly, I think, at the forefront of what we're trying to do in terms of improve the living conditions of our residents, but it's got a special interest in adult social care because it has an effect on both health workers and the inner London status. The Local Government Act in 1963 provided a statutory definition, and the 20 outer London boroughs were defined. Newham was included in the outer London category. The main difference, of course, is that inner and outer London boroughs do have very different funding, and this does affect the local government finance settlement. We won't hear till nearly Christmas Day what the local government settlement is, but there's always a detrimental effect on Newham compared with its nearest neighbours. I speak as somebody on an integrated care partnership, and the people of the other outer London boroughs, and we've already had reference to Barking and Dagenham, but there's also even the effects on population increase has not been reflected in these funding mechanisms. Hackney, City of London and Tower Hamlets are part of the North East London Integrated Care System, of which Newham is a part. The Integrated Care System has real differences in funding across its 7 boroughs, and the remainder, Newham being part of it, together with Waltham Forest, Redbridge and Havering, we have significant differences in the way we're funded. So there's historical differences now exacerbating the very important core allocated budgets, the levels of London waiting received by both NHS and care staff. There is a national scandal of the way that care is delivered by a predominantly female workforce, and we have, where we have had the levers, made certain that our care workers are paid a London living wage as in accordance with our manifesto commitments. But we still need to make certain that classifying Newham as an inner London borough would be a far more accurate definition on a statutory basis. The ONS consider that we're inner London. The actual Centre for London talked about an inner London problems of Newham, even though we're classified officially as outer London. Just to take some real statistics, the NHS in Newham, schools, local government, police, public health total is 4.963 on a certain index, and a certain very neighbouring borough is at 5030 for a smaller population. This historical funding, we believe, cannot continue to exist. I'll be working representing the Mayor at the Integrated Care Partnership, which I'm a Vice Chair, which is a policy setting agenda for the new integrated care system, to make certain that our workers, predominantly within care, which is still seen as an add-on and so often is now dealing with the real problems of NHS budgeting. These problems have been long historical. We've raised it at both the GLA. I know the Mayor of London, the current Mayor of London, has been lobbying on our behalf. But I think it is important in the context of tonight, not just about the LGA peer review challenge, which was a very good challenge upon us because adults and children take the majority of budgets, but also across the benefit of the system for the Integrated Care Partnership in North East London. So I urge everybody, regardless of party, because I've been on this council long enough to know that we had a cross-party agreement on this, to make certain that we continue to fight for inner London status, and that is far more important, as I think was already indicated in this meeting, rather than partisan and less important issues. So I urge people to join with us in terms of, and there'll be more information coming out on the progress that we can make in terms of inner London status. I hope I haven't used up my 3 minutes yet. I would just briefly say that in adults as well as health landscapes, we must ensure that it's not just a living wage, but it is also the pay and conditions of that workforce that we fight for. That will take resources. We have already in this council paid inner London waiting to teachers, and that was a historical decision, I think, taken ages ago. I thought I was running out of time, Chair, but thanks very much, and thank you, colleagues, if you can join with us in a real concerted campaign to make certain that this historical legacy issue is finally dealt with. Thank you.
Any more contributions from Cabinet or Commissioners? Thank you very much for that. I'm now going to move to page 43. motion 5. I call upon Councillor Nate Higgins to propose their motion, which is outlined on page 57 and 58 of the published agenda. Councillor Higgins, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. This country has shown time and time again that we are capable of eliminating homelessness if we have the political will to do so. Homelessness is a political choice, and it's one the recent Conservative and Liberal Democrats governments have seemed all too happy to inflict on this country. Due to their callous decision-making, London, and particularly Newham, is now facing a housing crisis. What does this mean? Often people think this means rough sleeping, and we are seeing an exceptionally high amount of that. But all too often, homelessness is far less visible than this. It means children growing up in cold and dangerous temporary accommodation, or having to sofa surf with no lock on their door and being denied their basic right to a safe and secure childhood. Or people, often vulnerable women, being forced to live with violent partners, or families living under the constant threat of eviction. That's why I'm delighted that in this room, we're not arguing about whether more social housing is a good thing, and that as a council we have a responsibility to work for more of it. Unfortunately, outside of this room, there are some bad actors who say that to even argue for more social housing is the wrong approach, or to use our planning systems to demand more social housing is wrong. In Newham, we're united in saying that housing is a basic human right, and it's our responsibility to deliver it with all the tools in our toolbox that we can. What we have been debating since the election and the local plan consultation is how to achieve this and whether the existing plans would deliver the manifesto commitment of achieving 50% social housing, or whether we needed a change of course. After the election, the Labour manifesto commitment to deliver a requirement for 50% social housing in the local plan was duly translated into the corporate plan. However, at a June 23 cabinet meeting, our Labour Mayor, Roxana Fiaz, proposed an amendment to the corporate plan which removed the commitment to put this requirement into our local plan, and ever since we've been trying to find out why. I've been asking endless questions at full council and in committee, and even successfully proposed the establishment of a local plan scrutiny commission because I, amongst other councillors on the regeneration committee, were not confident that the current approach would deliver on the commitments made to Newham residents. Answers have not been forthcoming, with regular denials that anything had changed. We've even had situations where officers have been forced to contradict the portfolio officer sat next to them. That's just not good enough. Residents deserve to expect those of us who are in charge to be on top of the detail. I know that behind the scenes and sometimes in committees, Labour colleagues have been bravely making this argument too. It's never easy to challenge your own party or your own administration, and it probably won't do them any good to name them, but they know who they are, and I want to thank them. Because of your work, this motion is now being heard, and we won't let this council fail residents who have been promised action. And that's why I took the exceptional decision to propose this motion, where much of the original text was originally drafted by Labour colleagues. It's not something that I would have done lightly, and it's actually something that we've called other councillors out for doing before. I don't know whether it was the right decision, but in this council, we regularly talk about the importance of good governance and transparency, and if there is ever an opportunity to have a debate in public, it's almost always the right thing to do. We're here debating this now because of cross-party action, and in that spirit, I'm accepting the Labour amendment brought to this motion. This amendment finally accepts that current plans would not deliver the social housing that had been promised. It echoes the comments made by many of us in committee. I want to end by saying that it's taken a long time to get here, but this amendment really does have some really solid actions proposed that would make a real difference to the crisis that so many people in Newham are facing, that the people on our doorstep as we came into this room today are facing. I hope that we can be united in accepting the amendment and the motion and in taking action on the social housing crisis in Newham. Thank you.
Councillor Keeling is second. Only second, thank you. We have Receiving an amendment to this motion in the names of Councillor Sasha Dasgupta and John Whitworth.
Still have a debate.
I'd still like to speak on it if possible. Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Greens for their commitment to recycling. They know no ends. And it's the season for giving, so we'll give them this one.
just one moment, Councillor, please. Could you let us know who you are?
Oh, sorry, I'm Councillor Sasha Dasgupta for Forest Gate North.
Thank you very much.
Social housing is one of the most important issues for our residents, and I'm really proud to be here today reaffirming our commitment to social housing and thank the Greens for their support on this issue. We really look forward to working with them in a collegiate way, and the seeming total rejection of the politics of the official opposition who see housing as a commercial asset rather than a human right. This amendment not only reaffirms our commitment to social housing, but it shows as an administration we can have and continue to build, as we have and will continue to build social housing. Because we know if you fix housing, you fix health. If you fix housing, you fix education. And if you fix housing, you can begin to fix the fractured communities ripped apart by a broken system that sees landlords taking advantage of fundamentally what we need to look after ourselves. It's fantastic that the Green Party show and share this commitment and show that through their emergency motion. But unfortunately, committing the council to pursuing social housing on the MSG site prior to suitability testing would have shown that perhaps we can help the Green Party walk a little bit before they run. But we're happy to be there to help them to do so. And we really welcome their support on accepting this amendment. Thank you.
Councillor John Whitworth. Clear my throat. Councillor John Whitworth.
3 minutes, Councillor.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to second this amendment, and also thank everybody for the acceptance of this amendment. It's a great subject to have unity on in the council because it's so important to our residents. I'll just briefly highlight one or two points that we are reaffirming of our policy. Because this amendment reaffirms our adherence to the manifesto commitments, which are, just to cite one or two in this motion, 50% social housing on all development sites, no fast-track approach without viability assessment for proposals below this 50% figure, the appointment of the council's own in-house viability assessor, and a campaign for more housing resources and for wider powers to provide social housing after the next general election. We need to reaffirm these commitments because currently we have over 34,000 households on the council's housing waiting list and over 6,100 people housed in temporary accommodation, which is the highest figure in the country. And the residents of Newham, therefore, urgently need housing, and housing they can afford to rent. We have become councillors because we want to improve the lives of the residents of Newham. And what is there more important materially to people than a decent, secure home? So this is what we are trying to offer them, those that don't have one currently. I therefore support the amendment and, the motion and the amendment. Thank you.
We're now moved to the debate. Any other member wish to speak? Yeah, Councillor Mohammed. Oh, sorry. Mirza, Councillor Mirza. Okay.
would like to say thank you to Councillor Nate for bringing the motion. And we do need, desperately need social housing. Since I become a councillor, the one casework every day I've received is about the housing. We got 37,000 people on the housing list. We got, thousands of people on temporary accommodation. I think this motion will bring a light, some hope that we will be coming towards the 50% of the social housing. Thank you, and I will support the motion and the amendment as well. Thank you.
Mayor Fiaz.
Thank you very much, Chair and colleagues. Wanted to just reflect on some of the commentary that's been provided tonight in terms of this debate, and I do want to thank Sasha and Councillor Sasha Gupta and Councillor John Whitworth for submitting the amendment to the main motion that was submitted originally by the Greens, albeit thank you for your grace in admitting that it was originally a Labour group motion. I think it's important for colleagues to understand that in the context of running a council and deliberating on the final points of policy, and in the interests of good governance, the members are tested and are challenged by experts that are officers. That's why they also perform their important civic duty to give us perspective, to give us range of opinion, so that we're able to triangulate in our discussions with our political colleagues, and in this instance, my Labour group colleagues, about the art of the possibility. And it is absolutely right that we challenge, we probe, we delve deep, we don't become orthodox, we remain disruptive, but always with an eye to good governance and an adherence to the legal parameters in which we have to operate, but also with an eye to, in the world of possibilities, the way in which we are having to challenge deeply entrenched vested interests, the vested interests of developers who ordinarily cream off 20 to 40% of profit. And I just want to remind colleagues in this room who are suggesting or inferring that not enough is being done. Let me remind you, we are borrowing £2 billion to build homes that our people can afford. We are alert and alive to the impact of inflationary pressures that is increasing the costs of construction. We are alive and alert to the constraints of planning authorities who are crippled because of the weight previously of development schemes coming through and not enough capacity. I want to point to the 3 estate regeneration schemes, including Carpenter's, the stone's throw away on a 28-acre site. That will be 2,157 homes, 50% of which we have committed to as being social rent. But I will also tell members here, under no circumstances in my administration will I ever allow this council to go bankrupt and face a Section 151 issue. And people, members here, can smile and smirk when, on many other occasions, they ask for others not to do to them what they wouldn't like to have done to them. But this is an administration that has been committed to social housing, and we are delivering. We are in the top local authorities that have been driving municipal house building since 2018. We are commended by the Greater London Authority, led by a Labour Mayor of London, who has committed to 50% on GLO-owned land. And the reason why we are committed to social housing and to more house building that our people can genuinely afford is because all of us, yes, have daily emails from local residents about their housing situations. And on a personal level, I know what it's like to lose your home. I know what it's like to sofa surf. I know what it's like to have to sleep in the same bed as your mum when you're at 28. And I know the traumatic impact not having the stability of a roof over your head has on families. And that trauma is carried generations after generations after generations. So please, when you're going to stand up in this chamber and make an appeal about social housing, look at the facts. Don't get distracted by words on a piece of paper. Look at actions. And this is an administration that made it clear from May 2018, we will be delivering for our people, and we will be pioneering in delivering more council homes that our people can afford to live in.
Any more speakers on this topic? Did you hear me? Yeah. Anyone else want to contribute? Okay. Bearing in mind that the amendment has been agreed by both sides, Councillor Hings, would you like to round up, please?
Thank you, Chair. I actually just wanted to thank the Mayor for sharing her story with Council and with the public. I think if I'd had a bit more time, I might have talked about my experience sleeping on a sofa on my sister's floor, sleeping on a mattress on my sister's floor, or sofa surfing, or being made homeless at 18, coming home to find the locks on my door changed by parents. I think it's great that we can that we all come to this room with our own experiences, and that it clearly fuels the passion that we have for different issues. That's why we're, why politics is people, right? It's why it's people with their own experiences that come to the room, and that shapes the work that they do. I don't think that there's anything else necessary for me to respond to. I think people have made their points. I guess the one thing that I would say is, I do want to say one thing, that this motion with the amendment does represent a change of course. It's a necessary change of course, but it's not being straightforward with residents to say that it's not a change of course. And it also isn't doing justice to the people, not just me, but the Labour colleagues who've been working behind the scenes to make this change of course happen. And it will happen now, hopefully, if this motion is listened to. But we've all got to work day in and day out to make sure that the promises that we make to residents are delivered on. And I think that involves some honesty and some modesty where we get things wrong, or where we have to be told to be braver or to fight harder or to try a new approach. And that's what this motion represents to, in my view, to the administration and to officers at this council. It's an ask for a change of approach. And I'm glad that there's unity within the council on this, but we do have to now remain diligent on making it happen so that we can deliver for the people that we represent, and on the promises that have been made again and again and again. Politicians before us have failed residents. We can't do that too. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. We will now move to the vote on the substantive motion. Those in favour, please show your hands.
Is this the motion as amended?
The motion.
No, the amendment was agreed, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. Start again. Those in favor of the motion with the amendment, please show. Okay, thank you. Those against the motion? I declare, any abstentions? The motion is therefore carried. Thank you very much.
Members, you will be aware from the order paper that we received an urgent motion, so we just need to deal with that issue next in the first instance. The Chair has been advised in relation to the validity of that.
Yeah, okay. Reasons for objection of urgent motion. Premature to consider purchase of the site. It is likely to take the Secretary of State a significant amount of time to make the decision. The amendment made by the Labour Group on the local plan considered the future uses of the site, including whether the site can be designated to housing and employment zones. The Mayor has already written to the Secretary of State on the 6th of December on this matter. I think we take that as read, do we? I agree for you. Councillor Islam, do you want to come in on this?
Thank you, Chair. Can I move Rule 16, Section 1 of Subsection 10, to vary the order of business by moving item 16 before item 14?
We have a seconder for that.
Yeah, we got some. Jenny.
Thank you.
Formally second.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I just clarify? Is that a procedural motion to move item 16 next? Yes?
Bear with me.
Repeat that. I didn't understand the question.
Can I just clarify? Was that a procedural motion to move item 16 next or to move items 14 to 16 next?
I think I need to find it. I think it's item 16, the one on just exposed transition and the climate emergency.
Okay, and what about 14 and 15?
Sorry?
14 and 15?
Before 14 and 15, and they flow. 14 and 15 rolls as normal.
So, sorry, are you moving 14, 15 and 16 as the next items, yeah?
No, 16.
No, I was actually moving 16 first, and then 14, 15 follows through.
Okay, so you want 16 first and then 14, 15. Yeah, that's fine. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Members, could we have a vote on this, please? Those in favor of the motion, the proposition rather, please show. Thank you. Those against? Thank you. Have we any abstentions? Okay. Moving to item 16. I am now moving to item 16, addressing the climate emergency Newham's Just Transition Plan. The report is outlined on pages 27 to 34 of the published agenda, with the appendices published on Supplement Agenda 2. I now ask Mayor Fiaz to move this report. Mayor Fiaz, you have 5 minutes. Your time starts as soon as you get to the microphone.
Thank you very much, Chair. Colleagues, as we count down to the end of COP28, and never before in such stark terms, can we claim that we weren't warned about the catastrophic implications facing humanity and the planet if we don't take up with the urgency it requires and our people and planet deserve the threats facing us because of the climate emergency? The implications for local residents here in Newham are profound, and our climate action response is the most important areas of work here at the Council since we declared a climate emergency in April 2019. But it's a first. The Just Transition Plan that we have brought to note at full Council tonight highlights why justice is at the centre of our climate action response. We know that the climate emergency reveals inherent inequalities facing certain communities in Newham, across London, in the UK, and for the global south. As people of the world, we need to fundamentally change how we live, how we structure our economy, but also how we exist in relationship to the world around us. The expansion of cities and urban environments and the destruction of vital ecological habitats have eroded many of the natural barriers that can prevent diseases spreading. Unless we stop environmental degradation and get serious with our carbon reduction requirements, future viruses with an impact on the scale of COVID-19 are highly likely to emerge. We've also pushed forward and delivered on many of our climate emergency actions that we set ourselves for the past year, putting sustainability at the core of our recovery strategy. From increasing air quality monitoring across the borough, introducing an emissions-based parking scheme, to decarbonising all of our council buildings, switching all of our street lights to 100% renewable electricity, planting more trees and transitioning our vehicle fleet to fully electric. We are making progress. But colleagues, as the debates at COP28 attest, we really do need to do more. Our approach to climate emergency is becoming ever more visible in Newham, and its impact will be felt for generations to come, because with an eye to the here and now, we cannot ignore our obligations, responsibilities, and duties to future generations. That's why in our Newham Just Transition Plan, it reflects a shift in gear and a comprehensive reset, with a powerful new framework that will drive the Council's approach in responding to the climate emergency we face. While decarbonising Newham is necessary, we must also work on adapting to and being ready for the realities of an already changing climate to ensure the health and safety of our residents. All this needs to happen at an accelerated pace, and all the while ensuring residents materially benefit from the broader ongoing transition of our local economy towards net zero. If we really want to demonstrate that we are serious and committed in addressing inequity and inequality, particularly for communities of colour, we need to ensure that a just transition is central in supporting our residents who are disproportionately impacted by the climate emergency. Moreover, they disproportionately bear the higher costs of decarbonisation. As we count down to the conclusion of COP28, we need to be part of the global movement in our accelerated calls for greater international commitment and action, but also we need to be putting our money where our mouth is and calling for greater resources from national government to maximise our efforts in Newham. Because the local matters, this comprehensive plan to achieve a less polluted, healthier and more equitable and energy efficient borough in response to a whole range of issues, including energy insecurity and heating poverty, we require to be embracing this plan that is both ambitious and realistic. It sets out a detailed programme designed to mitigate the effects of climate change and contribute to combating the existential threat facing us, and that is why we have brought this vital report to the Council for members to note, and I urge you all to do so positively.
Councillor John Whitworth to second.
Thank you, Chair. Well, Newham, as we know, is one of the most disadvantaged local authorities in the country, and it's also the most vulnerable to climate change in London. It's therefore to meet these challenges that we produced this Just Transition Plan. Well, this plan builds on the important work done by the previous climate emergency action plans, as highlighted by the Mayor, and widens its scope to involve all areas of the Council's work and influence the future economy of the borough and the lifestyle of our residents. We speak of climate emergency, which we declared as a council in 2019, and whose effects we've already seen with our flooded streets and entire weeks of scorching temperatures. Climate change is already hurting us, and it will get worse. And it already is worse, of course, in so many other countries. We need a plan, therefore, to help protect the health and quality of life of our residents, while encouraging them to take steps to reduce their own contribution to this process and to protect the environment of this borough. This Just Transition Plan has this ambition, and it boldly sets out the measures necessary to achieve it. The proposals in Section 4, and particularly 4.2 of this report, set out three principles upon which this plan is built: increasing equity, reducing emissions, building long-term resilience. We expect reducing emissions to be central to climate action, but this plan has addressing inequality as its core. The borough's most deprived residents, as everywhere, contribute least to climate change while suffering the most from its effect. This plan proposes to introduce measures to protect them from these effects while giving them increased agency to shape their future. Reducing carbon emissions, pollution and waste, and increasing efficient energy consumption, recycling and exchange will contribute to the improvement of the health and standard of living of our residents. Adapting our homes, transport, infrastructure and natural environment will enable us to mitigate the worst effects of climate change in a very vulnerable area. I therefore second this plan, which sets out a route towards a better future in an uncertain and rapidly changing world. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now moving to the debate. Does any member wish to speak? Councillor Higgins. Sorry.
Well, Christmas really has come early, Chair. This report is a long and necessary wish list of things we need to do to ensure that Newham makes a just transition. But the question is, will Santa be able to deliver enough money to pay for it all? We commend the aspiration of Newham's pivot to envisioning the climate crisis and an intersectional emergency, not limited by a narrow view of cutting carbon emissions. As Greens, we have always championed this approach, knowing that we cannot have climate justice without social justice and equality. A street-by-street retrofit programme will lower people's energy bills and reduce reliance on fossil fuels for heating, a just transition that is needed now more than ever. The reality is stark. The climate crisis will change our way of life forever. Even if the world meets 1.5 degrees goal, there will be still significant impacts on 350,000 residents, 120,000 households, and 14,000 businesses in Newham. Stats from the report are a combination of social, economic, and environmental factors, giving particularly stark reading. Newham has high levels of deprivation, with 23.5% of residents earning below the living wage. And we're at elevated risks of overheating and flooding compared to other London boroughs. We need bold solutions to solve this. A mass tree planting campaign beyond pocket forests that reframes our streets, encourage active travel to pivot us away from the car-polluting centric mode of travel. This action alone will lessen the impact of heat waves and flash floods, as well as championing healthier, safer, and community-centric ways of commuting. Working with partners outside of the council will be an important step in realising this transition. However, we are wary around City Airport's claim of net zero by 2030, with its ongoing support of unnecessary short-haul, ghost and empty flights, as well as private jets. In the first half of 2023, a quarter of all flights out of City Airport departed with fewer than half of their seats occupied, which pertains to the total of 2,945 flights were found to leave more than half empty between January and June this year. That's 31%. We must fight greenwashing and projects that pollute and damage our borough. Sadiq Silvertown Tunnel is a great example that continues to be built, and despite calls from the Greens for this council to push for alternative uses which promote active travel. However, this vision in this report is bold, and financing these actions will be no easy task. As Greens, this council will always have our full support for bold climate action, which recognises the intersectional nature of the climate emergency and the necessity of a just transition to benefit residents across our borough and beyond.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Pontin, did you raise your hand? Oh, it's Ken. No, I saw John first. John Gray, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Councillor John Gray, West Ham Ward, speaking in support of this report from a trade union perspective about the term just transition, because a just transition council is not just a moral imperative, it's also a political imperative. Since if there is no just transition, there will be no effective challenge to climate change, and the planet will indeed be doomed. Just transition to working people means that they must be protected from the economic downside of any transition in terms of jobs and futures. If they aren't, they will kick back. It's not me saying this. Look at the world. Look at the people who voted for right-wing populists such as Donald Trump as President of the United States. Never forget, Council, that he was helped into power by coal miners from Kentucky who may do the same, God forbid, again at the next American election. Don't forget also the Yellow Jackets in France who imposed rises in fuel duty and were able to basically destabilise and push back a greener agenda by years, if not decades. The last economic transition in this country was in the 1970s and 1980s. And in my hometown in North Wales, pits were closed, steelworks were shut down, and textile mills dismantled and shipped overseas. Male unemployment at that time was 30%, which is a major reason why I came to London as an economic migrant. So let us do something active to actually stop and prevent climate change by the term just transition, but it's got to be a just, and there has to be a transition that's protecting workers in this country, or it will fail. But please support this report and the great steps forward that's obtained within it. Thank you.
Councillor Benton.
Hello, Councillor Ken Penton, Maryland Ward. I'd like to say, first of all, how much I welcome this report, that Newham is going to be the first council in the country to introduce a just transition plan. As my colleague, Councillor Gray has just said, just transition for workers, but also a just transition for communities across the UK, including Newham. And it's great that Newham's taking a start. This is good news for Newham residents. And I think, they need as much good news as they can get at the moment. So I welcome that too. I do quite disagree with some of my colleagues, actually, and my Green Party colleagues. It's not bold, it's not ambitious, it's urgent, it's necessary, it's vital. It's actually common sense. It's when you talk to people and explain what we need, the transition we need to make, I've yet to find anyone who really disagrees with it unless they've got a vested interest in doing so. And what's great about this is the signal it sends to our residents, but also sends across London and across the country. It marks the end of the fossil fuel era in Newham. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's the start of a necessary and vital change. And as well as happening to tackle the climate emergency, the actions outlined in this will improve air quality for our residents in our borough, which is the most polluted borough in England. We know we need to do that. That's why we've already taken steps to do that, but this is necessary to improve it further. The people of Newham deserve the right to live with clean air and not have the risk of the respiratory diseases that they, their families and their friends are exposed to. It'll also bring down the bills for Newham residents who are struggling with the cost of living crisis that's been caused by the Tory government, which has crashed our economy. We're making a step today with this report that will make a real impact on people's lives. So I look forward to seeing this plan become put into practice, and I'm proud that it's a Labour council that's proposing it. It shows the difference that Labour can make when we're at our best for the people that we represent and for the planet. I commend this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Murphy, as you have... Oh, just 1 minute, please. Yes, Councillor.
Chair, can I move standing orders by 20 minutes?
How many?
20 minutes.
20 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, just for clarification, we do need to tonight deal with items 14, 15 and 17 as well.
I was hoping that 20 minutes would suffice, and I'll put it to the meeting to decide whether they want to extend it or agree my 20 minutes proposal.
Yeah, well,
Why not 30?
20 is fine? Yes, we move 20 minutes.
20 minutes. All right. Members, those in agreement to the proposal, please show. Thank you very much indeed. Those against? Well, that is carried. Thank you. Any more contributors to this item? Yes, can see your face.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Miraj Patel, Green Street East Ward. I commend this plan, and there's a lot of content, and a lot of my colleagues have covered a lot of the points that I wish to make, so I won't bore people with repetition. There's one thing I did want to repeat, which is we are the first borough in the country to have such a plan, and we all in this room and beyond should be immensely proud of that. in terms of the actual plan, I was really pleased to see how this particular plan and report aims to deal with discrimination and harassment and victimisation. And this also enhances our wider plans in the borough around our green spaces, our parks, our allotments. So there's much to be proud of, and I support this plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other person wanted to speak? Thank you very much. Mayor Fiaz, you have the right to reply should you wish to do so, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to do so.
Thank you very much, Chair. Colleagues, thank you very much for all of your contributions, and I think it's been a real demonstration of how far we have come since we declared a climate emergency. Let's not underestimate that there are ideologies and voices out there that are going to be chasing the climate denial that this isn't happening. And it's really important that as we reflect on what the world concludes tomorrow, we all know it's not going to be enough because the international community isn't showing sufficient leadership. So let's bring COP28 back here to Newham, bring it local, and let's benefit our people in the Newham way, because remember, we are all about building a fairer Newham and embracing the necessary life-saving climate actions is going to be vital. Thank you.
Let's move to the vote. We've got the recommendations. Now is the time to vote. Those in favour of the motion, please show. Sorry? Sorry, report. Thank you very much. You're very sharp on this one. Yeah. Yes, those in favour of the report, please show.
Noted.
Thank you very much. Those against? Any abstentions? That is carried. Thank you very much indeed.
Chair, sorry, point of order. In the pre-briefing for this council, we were promised an explanation would be provided for why there isn't the constitutional review at this council meeting. The council procedure rules were supposed to be at the previous full council meeting, and they weren't, and we would promise an explanation, and one wasn't given, so I had to rise and do a point of order and ask why. And I asked again why they weren't here, and we were told that we'd be given an explanation, and we haven't been. This promise was made at the annual council meeting in May 2022. We're now a year and a half on from that. I would like that explanation for why it's still not here and what on earth is going on with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any response?
Yeah. Is that okay, Chair?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just in response to the member, don't worry, there's no conspiracy, even though there's a general habitual sort of shift into that frame, which I think generally is unhelpful. So what is fact is that a by-election happened recently. What is a fact that we have another minority group, albeit not 2, but 3. And it's right and proper that in the context of an additional minority group, they are consulted on the constitutional review process so far. And I'm sure everyone in this room or in this chamber would welcome the opportunity as a demonstration of our transparency, engagement, involvement with all colleagues, that all groups have an opportunity to input. So simply put, it's not delayed. it would have come had the outcome most recently not have happened, but it did. There are 3 additional individuals that make up a minority group, and it's right and proper in the interests of the veracity of the constitution of this local authority that they are consulted, and that will happen via the monitoring officer and democratic services. So watch this space, and at the next full council meeting next year in 2024, we will be receiving the next report as it pertains to the constitutional review. And I would say this, don't necessarily get excited about why something isn't fast enough. Sometimes in life, it's always right and proper to slow down so that you can deliberate and you don't make mistakes, and you take your time and you're considered and you consult and you involve experts. So it will be coming, and it is an important document, and it is important that time is taken. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is that acceptable, Councillor Higgins? Do you accept that explanation?
Not really. Doesn't matter.
It will be noted. Item 14. I'm now moving to item 14, attendance at meetings. Authority to exempt. The report is outlined on pages 3 to 5 of the supplementary agenda. I now ask Councillor Islam to move this report. Councillor Islam, you have 5 minutes. Your time starts as soon as you get to the microphone.
Chair, can I formally move item 14, please?
You may. Seconded?
I formally second.
Thank you. Mayor, to introduce the report. Item 14.
Yeah, it's not me.
That's fine, Chair. Let's move to the vote. Let's move to... Does anybody want to speak in relation to this matter? No?
Yeah,
Okay.
said,
Councillor Islam, you have technically a right to reply. Do you want to exercise that? No? Okay. Let's move.
Waive right of reply.
That's fine. Let's move to the vote then, Chair.
Right.
Just take the vote.
Yeah. Those in favour, please show. Thank you. Those against? Any abstentions? That is carried. Thank you very much indeed.
That's item 15.
I am now moving to item 15, review of political proportionality and allocation of seats. The report is outlined on page 7 to 13 of the supplementary agenda. I now ask Councillor Islam to move this report. Councillor Islam, you have 5 minutes. Your time starts now.
Thank you, Chair and fellow council members. Acknowledging the recent transformation in our council's political landscape and aligning with legal advice outlined in the appended document 1 or appendix document 1 from our preceding council meeting, the last council meeting, I can't recall the date, sorry, I do apologize. A comprehensive review of the political proportionality and the seat allocation was initiated. In our unwavering commitment to democratic principle and fairness, we undertook this review to ensure that our course of action is just and unbiased. Guided by the recent processes and under expertise of democratic services and the council monitoring officer, I, as the Chief Whip of Majority Group, present a report on seat allocation. This report is designed to guarantee that the composition of our committees mirrors the overall political equilibrium within the council. In the meticulous formulation of these seat allocation for committees and subcommittees, we took into careful consideration the requests from both minority groups as outlined in Appendix 1 of Item 15. Whenever consensus prevailed, it was duly honoured. However, in stances where agreement was elusive, the majority group, under my role as Chief Whip, made determination of the remaining seats on non-scrutiny committees. Regarding the allocation of scrutiny committees, recommendations from the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny played a pivotal role in assigning groups to each commission. I emphasize that these recommendations were fully implemented irrespective of contrary statements from other sources in another place. This report is now presented to the Council for your thoughtful consideration. I earnestly request all members to cast their votes in favour of the report. Thank you, Chair. I hereby move this proposal forward.
Thank you. Seconder, please.
I formally second this report.
Thank you. We now move to the debate. Does any member wish to?
There's an amendment.
Is it an amendment?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Nate Higgins moving the amendment on behalf of the Green Group. In the report as drafted by officers, it has a clause which delegates authority to the monitoring officer to reallocate any seats given to opposition groups that aren't taken, to reallocate them back to the Labour group. That's strange because for people who don't know the chronology of how we've got here, at last full council, we increased the size of every committee by one in order to provide seats to the opposition without taking any seats off of existing Labour councillors on committees. Therefore, there is one seat on every committee that was explicitly created for the purposes of opposition representation. What this report does is, as currently drafted, where a particular opposition group has been given a committee that they haven't asked for, which has happened in some cases, if we don't take that seat, it then goes to Labour instead of to the other opposition group. Now, we've argued about the law on this extensively in this room, far more than I would have wanted to, but we got to the point where we understand that the primary principle in law is that there should be an opposition councillor on every single committee. That principle goes above any other principle. If we accept this report without this amendment, what we are going to end up with is council committees with only Labour councillors on. And not only that, it creates an incentive for Labour to give opposition groups committees that they know we won't take in order to make sure that there are Labour-only committees. This report was not, as far as I understand, drafted by the Labour Party. This is not a partisan amendment. All it is supposed to do is to enable opposition committee seats to go to opposition councillors, so that if the independent group have been offered a committee that they don't feel that they can take, it would be offered to the Green Group and vice versa. This will enable us to use the expertise of various councillors within different groups to the best of our abilities. Not only that, there's an inequality in the current motion, in the current report. This allows Labour to leave a committee seat vacant if they want to, or if they don't currently have anybody who can take the seat. That isn't the same for other groups. It's strange to give opposition committee seats to the majority party when they already have the vast majority of seats and they were designed specifically for opposition councillors. I urge members to vote for this amendment to protect opposition representation on committees, which we have argued for far more time than any of us would have wanted to. Thank you.
Thank you.
If required, I formally second.
Sorry, I missed that, Councillor. Thank you. Okay, any debate on the amendment? Councillor Lewis.
Chair, I'll just very quickly speak. I am going to oppose the amendment, and I appreciate all the work that you've done to get that representation on the committees. But I think there is a sort of misunderstanding of the non-political nature of a lot of these committees. It's not really about political party, it's about the person. So whilst we do have in the current settlement a really good representation of the independent groups, to actually maintain that instead of going to the best person for the role, it goes to the group, I think that leaves us in a really dangerous place. It means that people who aren't really qualified to get that place on that committee could be put forward for political representation reasons rather than for the quality of their work as a councillor. And for that very basic reason, I'll be opposing the motion. I hope that's acceptable. And as I said, I do appreciate the work you've done on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments on the amendment? Councillor Mirza.
Thank you, Chair. I fully support this amendment because I believe the opposition members have a right to scrutinize. They have a right to stay in the committee. We are in number of few, but I think we also gain the right to stay in the committees. And I would like to say thank you to Majority Group Whip and the Chair of Overwing Scrutiny, Tony McCullman. After seeing that article in Open Newham, me, and it's all about me, I am in charge. I would like to say thank you for standing up for the principles. Thank you.
Any more contributions on the amendment? Thank you. Then you move Councillor McAlmont.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry. Chair, I note Councillor Mirza's comment and the comment about the article in Open Newham. I disassociate myself with that article in Open Newham. And also, Chair, I, for one, do not agree with the amendment for various reasons that was discussed earlier. I won't go back into that because it seems to have been settled. But I just rise to say that I disassociate myself with that article. Thank you.
Mayor Fiaz.
Chair, may we just have a view from the monitoring officer with regards to this amendment, please?
Yeah. Chair, thank you. I think the amendment's not necessary because I, as monitoring officer, will only allocate the seats back to the Labour Party after a period of 3 weeks. So that leaves a period of 3 weeks when those that are nominated onto those seats can either take those seats or alternatively give it to whoever they wish, including the other opposition party. So what's been feared as part of the amendment isn't likely to happen.
Yes. No, I think that's an explanation, really. I don't think we really need any more debate on the matter as far as I'm concerned, because it's been properly explained to you. Could you accept that? What the monitoring officer just said, how the seats are allocated and how will they be allocated in the future?
Sorry, Chair, could we not prolong this because we have 4 minutes and we need to do 2 other matters which are really important. So unless there's a right to reply, can we move to the vote on this, please?
Yeah, on the amendment. Could we vote on the amendment? Just 1 minute,
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor.
I note the guidance issued by the monitoring officer, and on that note, we're going to reject the amendment and straight to the vote, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
Let's take the vote on the amendment.
Yes, we need to take a vote on the amendment. Those in favour of the amendment, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thank you very much. And those against? I'm happy to say the amendment has fallen. Thank you. Now, moving back to the substantive motion, we now move to the debate. Does any member wish to debate or to speak on this?
Let's move to the vote.
No?
Straight to the vote.
You've had your chance. Thank you.
Move straight to the vote.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Is that agreed? Yeah, moving to the vote. Those in favour of the recommendation, thank you. Thank you very much. Those against, that is carried. Any abstentions, by the way? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much indeed. That is carried.
Okay, so Chair, now we have 2 minutes left and we need to do with 2 really important matters. The first is Treasury Management, item 17, and the next one is the date of the next council meeting.
Chair,
Mayor.
if I may, on the Treasury Management report, given that we've got 2 minutes,
Yes.
can I ask that we just move straight to the vote?
Right. That is a proposal. Those in favour of moving to the vote? Thank you very much indeed. Those against? The proposal is to move to the vote. Therefore, those in favour of the recommendation, page 35, could you please show? Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Anyone against? That is carried. Any abstentions? Thank you very much indeed. That is carried. Yes.
Chair, I'm moving that we extend the meeting by a further 10 minutes. We've had, it's a point of order and I'm going to speak. Last council meeting, we missed members' questions and we're about to miss them again. There is a point in members' questions that we can ask a supplementary question. That's the only scrutiny that the answers to these questions get, and it feels really important to me. We put the time into writing them. The council officers and the elected councillors put a lot of time into writing them. They deserve to be heard in this room, and we deserve the chance to ask a supplementary question as well. So that's why I'm proposing that we extend for another 10 minutes in order to hear members' questions. Thank you.
I should put that to members. And those in favour of extend... Yes?
Well, 2 things. Firstly, I thought you could only move standing orders once, and secondly, the guillotine has fallen.
Right.
Technically, you can move an extra period if you want to, right? It's not ideal, but you can do that. And we do need to deal with an important matter in relation to the council tax setting exercise. So can we...
I think what we should move to do is to move to the vote on the extension of additional time. I'll put that to members. So those in favour of the recommendation, please show. This is to extend standing orders. Let me remind you, this is extend standing orders.
Okay, yep.
All right?
Let's do it.
Thank you. So you're in favour of extending, right? Okay, thank you. Those against?
For 10 minutes.
I think the recommendation is carried, and that's for 10 minutes, okay? Extend standing orders for further 10 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're dealing with item 22, which is an additional item being placed under urgency in relation to the revision of council, the calendar for meetings. We need to change the council tax setting exercise from the date that's set in view of the decisions that are due to be taken at the GLA. We're not clear at what date that will be set for, but it certainly would be for the statutory deadline of the 11th of March.
Where is it?
22.
22.
Page. It's not on there.
What page?
Just 49. 49. 49.
49. Right, the next item is item 22, revision of calendar of meetings. I've accepted this report as a matter of urgency. The report is outlined on page 15 and 16 of the supplement agenda. I will now move this report.
16.
This is important. Have we got it?
Yeah, there is.
Okay, the report is contained on agenda, page 15, agenda item 21A. Do you have a seconder to that report?
Formally.
Thank you. We now move to the debate. Does any member wish to speak? You have an amendment. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Nate Higgins proposing on behalf of the Green Group. Again, this is a non-partisan report with a very much non-partisan amendment. I'm a young councillor. I work full-time. I know there are other young councillors in this room who also work full-time, and there are parents and carers in this room as well. It is already exceptionally difficult to do our duties as councillors in those circumstances. That's why we agree a calendar of meetings ahead of time, usually for an entire year, so that we can arrange our lives to be here at moments like this. There is arguably not a more important moment to be present than the Council's budget setting exercise, which is due to take place in February. I worry about delegating authority to officers to decide when our budget setting exercise is going to be without setting some guidelines, such that it shouldn't be during the workday, and we should be given sufficient notice about when that is. I know in the report it says in consultation with the Chair of Council, but as we saw at the start of this meeting, we don't currently have a Chair of Council between meetings, and I don't know when we will. I'm not in the position to know that. And therefore, this amendment felt necessary. All it does is say that we must be given 2 weeks' notice for the new date and that the meeting shouldn't take place before 6:30 p.m. That's in line with most of what happens with all our other committees and important meetings. But it just felt really important for it to be stated in this report. I don't know whether the monitoring officer who has presumably drafted this report is happy to comment on whether these guidelines are achievable. I think that they're very achievable, and for the reasons I mentioned, I think they're very necessary. So please vote for the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. This is against the amendment, Councillor Islam.
Chair, I can't recall if we've got someone to second this, but in any case, can we go straight to a vote after?
Well, we have to take a decision on the amendment. Okay, so those in favour of the amendment, please show.
Sorry,
Thank you.
You
want to contribute?
I've just got a point of clarification, just to help aid this discussion and debate. I know that there's a statutory requirement and framework whereby council papers need to be published 5 working days before meetings, and I know that in the Constitution it states that full council meetings start at 7 p.m. The point at which notice is sent out by Democratic Services to all members relating to full council and the time deadlines that pertain to various elements of full council, that is at least 2 weeks in advance of the first deadline date, isn't it? So I guess my question is, as part of the clarification, do we not already have this procedure in place? If you think about the Democratic Services issuing notice in advance of all the deadline dates, and that happens at least 2 weeks before.
For the actual meeting?
Yeah, it happens at least 3 weeks before the actual meeting, because there's deadline dates for the submission of motions, etc., etc.
Right, clarification.
Chair, we're worried about something unnecessarily, if I could say. We would not in any circumstances leave the most important council meeting, which is the council's budget setting exercise, to just 2 weeks before the event itself, right? So this date will be resolved sometime during the early part of January.
Thank you very much for that.
It won't be during the workday.
Well, meetings very rarely happen during the day. It's normally the evenings that we have council meetings. You know. So I think I'm going to move to the vote on this one, Councillor.
Yeah.
The thing is, we're voting on the amendment which you just expressed. So, do we have a seconder for that amendment? Okay, thank you. Voting on an amendment. Those in favour of the amendment, would you please show? Thank you very much indeed. Those against that amendment, please show. Thank you very much indeed. And abstentions? The amendment is defeated. Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Move to the recommendations.
Right.
We need to go to the poll.
Move to the vote.
Let me catch up with myself. Just 1 minute, please. We now move to the debate. Does any member wish to speak on the substantive motions?
Can we move straight to a vote, given the time?
Is that seconded?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So we're moving to the vote on...
Yep, so we're
Chair,
moving
point of-
to the vote on the recommendation set out in the report at page 3.
Sorry, I didn't...
Right. Those in favour of the report as published? Thank you. Those against the report? Right. Do we have any abstentions? 1, 2, 3 abstentions. I declare that is carried. The substantive motion is carried. Okay.
Chair, point of order. Can I
Now-
move standing orders again? 16, section 1, subsection 10.
let me take-
Bringing 21 to be heard now, because we have got literally 1 minute left, and we need to get those appointments through.
Well, let me take legal advice on this one, because we've done it twice already, so I'm not quite sure if we can do a
We need
third
those
time.
appointments. We've got 1 minute.
Let's listen to the monitoring officer.
Yep, so we've got 1 minute, members. Can we deal with this item if need be? Yes, yeah.
Right. Has to be moved, I'm afraid. You have to move the recommendation. You could do it substantially.
So we can move it. Okay. Chair, I wish to nominate Councillor Terry Poole for the vacated seat of Chair of Crime, Environment and Regeneration Scrutiny Commission. Can we have a seconder, please?
Is it seconded?
Yeah.
Right.
I formally second this appointment.
Thank you very much.
And I also wish to nominate...
Can we move straight to a vote, sir?
We have a recommendation to move to the vote. And forgive me.
Yeah.
There's a recommendation to move to the vote. And that's...
Chair, we have a second nomination. What's the second nomination? What's the second
nomination is Councillor Higgins.
Okay. Can we move to the vote on each, please?
Is that seconded? Right. Okay. We're now moving to the vote. Well, those in favour... Pardon?
Councillor Terry Paul first, and then
Terry Paul.
Right. Councillor Terry Paul, who else?
so there's 2 nominations.
Right.
Councillor Terry Paul first.
Yes.
And then Councillor Higgins.
Councillor. Okay, the 2 nominations, I'm told, is Councillor Terry Paul and Councillor Keeling. Is that right?
Yes.
Right. Higgins or Keeling?
Higgins.
Higgins. Forgive me. Right. Okay.
So Councillor Paul vote.
Right.
Yeah. Chair, we actually have passed the guillotine now, so technically speaking, any matters after this are unlawful. So
Okay.
let's close the meeting.
We can't.
Right. Meeting's closed.
Sorry,
for
Chair.
that.
It's a quick point of order. We
No,
had an
I'm sorry.
adjournment
I'm
for
sorry.
10
The
minutes.
meeting's closed, Councillor. Thank you very much indeed. What are you done to me, you guys?
I'm surprised you...